I'm a big stress baker, so throughout, I've actually stopped baking now, so I think there's a correlation.
Stress is gone. Yeah. PhD stress baking, no longer baking. Maybe you need some more stress.
I feel like I need more stress to get myself baking. So throughout my PhD, I actually, in my free time, I wrote a recipe book. Yeah.
How did you get the time to?
No, it was just my way of procrastinating.
Hello everyone, and welcome to another session of Academic Research Logs. It's been a little while. We've talked about stories behind the research, but I am so excited today because I've got Ria with me to share some of our own personal experiences in terms of doing a PhD and some of the stories that come with doing the PhD. So Ria, can you maybe just start by introducing yourself to us, and then we'll go from there.
Sure, sounds good. So hi everyone, my name's Ria Joseph. I am an accredited practicing dietitian and I'm currently working as a research fellow at the Caring Futures Institute at Flinders University. And I recently submitted my thesis in July, which is very exciting and nerve-wracking. And I'm here now, so
congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Here just really say a big congratulations to you because it is not an easy journey.
Yep.
And you've taken that journey and now you're here at the end, submitted.
Yep.
Well done.
Thank you.
Well done. Good job. But I really get inspired by people's journeys of PhDs, and I don't know, for me it's just a fascinating thing. I'm still in awe of people's inspiration behind doing a PhD. Like, why have you decided to do one? What kept you going? And what are the ups, what are the downs? So I probably maybe want you to start by telling us what's the inspiration behind your research.
Okay, yeah. So I've been practicing as a dietitian for 6 years, and I've always been passionate about food, and I love food. Who doesn't? Yes. But I also am very passionate about cancer care specifically. So I started working in cancer care for the past 4 years. And I have a lot of family members and friends who have been affected by cancer, and not just the cancer, but also the side effects from their treatment. And something that I've been very passionate about is my whole family, like myself, we love to eat, and just not having that ability to eat the foods that they liked anymore because they had lost their sense of taste, or they just had no appetite and they lost a lot of weight. And I found that there wasn't much support in terms of dietary and exercise support. So a lot of my PhD research is really about optimizing referrals and actually trying to get cancer survivors to get that support that they need at key time points. So when I think of all these patients, I think of my family. So it's very close to my heart.
And I think for when I hear you talk about your inspiration, I think that's a very important aspect of it as well, because that's what keeps you going. All you need to do sometimes is to think of, a close relative has gone through this. I can't give up yet. I want this to be better, isn't it? So I think that's a very great inspiration to have. Because I think sometimes, our people say, oh, why are you doing a PhD? Sometimes I think people do it for different reasons. But I think your reason is actually a very important one that would have kept you going. So now that we're here, what are some of the highlights for you through this journey? What are some of the experiences that were things that you really thought, wow, this is something that was really good?
Okay, just about my PhD generally?
Okay.
Yes. I think one of the biggest things, and what you'll find is your supervisors play a massive role in your PhD. And I'm sure many people have good and bad experiences.
Yes, that's true.
But I have to say, I think throughout my PhD journey, I have had such a fantastic experience with my supervisors. Because essentially I felt like I was back at school because I got edits and feedback for every single one of my drafts for my thesis.
That's amazing.
From all my supervisors. And no matter how busy they were, they still made time to actually look at it and give me feedback, which I actually found really important to actually, help me, motivate me to continue going, because I knew I was supported by them. So that's one major thing. I feel like that's a big factor in completing my PhD. Another thing I was actually going to say is definitely my family and friends. So I actually moved from Brisbane 2 years ago. So I spent most of my life in Brisbane. I actually grew up in the Middle East, but then when I came back to Australia for university, I've been in Brisbane the whole time.
Okay.
So all my friends were there and my sister's there as well. So moving to Adelaide was a big decision.
Yeah.
But because I've received so much support from my supervisors, I actually just ended up moving to Adelaide to complete my PhD.
Wow, that's awesome. So
Yeah.
again, you're saying, and I think this is one of the things that's rang through for most of our journeys and some of the stories that we've shared: supervision, support from family and friends. Because I think sometimes we forget that it is not, it's a marathon.
Yeah, 100%. And you need fuel to keep going.
You do need people. You need people are those fuels, isn't it? And if you don't have them, people can often have those sorry stories that we hear often, that we hear about a lot. But also, I wanted to hear your experiences in terms of what are the challenges? Like, did you have any challenges that you experienced?
Yeah.
I think that's what we all know that they're right. Yeah.
Oh yes. So, and I think that's why a lot of people don't do their PhDs because it's not something easy. It is hard, and I think anyone who's completed their PhD, it's an amazing achievement just starting a PhD.
That's true.
So I think the main thing would I've never been a great writer. Like I've always been much better at presenting or articulating myself to people in person, but I've never been a good writer, and that's something I've always struggled with. And yes, then comes my PhD, and I'm like, oh, I need to write a thesis. Oh, it needs to actually be written really well. So I struggled so much with that, and I think with that, my supervisors really helped in terms of giving me feedback and on all my drafts. But I think that was probably my biggest challenges because I didn't realize how much I guess impact that would have on my journey. So yeah, I didn't expect to struggle as much, but I really did. Another thing as well is just I feel like sometimes when you start your PhD, you have all this time to do your projects. And I'm sure many people have gone through it where you're like, oh, but do I have enough time to do this? And the thing is, I actually completed all my projects 6 months before I completed my thesis.
Wow,
but because my thesis took so long, I was panicking that I wouldn't finish because I didn't finish writing because I take forever to write. So that was actually, I was my own barrier.
You're in good company. You're in good company. I'll do everything else except the writing. Like, give me vacuuming.
Oh my God, yes.
Give me dusting. Give me everything. But that writing, I'll be like, I'll get to it.
Yeah, I'll get to it later eventually. And then it just kept creeping up, and it takes, I think it almost takes me almost a week just to write a few paragraphs. I'm like, wow. That's a great achievement, but I've done 2 paragraphs, okay?
Well, we are moving. As long as we're moving, we're going to keep, we're doing something,
Yeah, so. And I think, that was probably the biggest thing. I think another thing was also being away from family and friends. That was hard because I've always been surrounded by some friends or family. But I think moving to Adelaide, I've made such amazing friends here. So they've been my support system here. So I think without having my team or having my friends here, I don't think I would have been able to complete it on time or at all.
And I think one thing that I've heard that's rang through from all that you've been saying here today is that when you're considering doing a PhD, support is one of the key important aspects, isn't it? We need to get that support system in place. And especially coming from whether international student or you're coming from another context, another setting, when you get here, it's completely, you need that support of people. I think one story that I often share with people was the support of family members. And I've talked about this in some of my videos before where I was struggling writing the same thing. I was writing a chapter for nearly, for a year or so. It just wasn't coming together. And everything else was getting done except the PhD. And one of my family members, which is my mother-in-law, came, and all she came to do was just so that I can do the PhD. And she came in and said, look, we're here. Well, my goal here is for you to be able to complete and finish the PhD. And it's amazing. In 3 months, yes, I had chapters that were there, but they were not solid or were not finished. But in 3 months, while she was here, I actually got about 3-4 chapters.
Oh wow!
Well written, like up and not maybe not ready, but quite there. So again, like when you were talking about it, it brought back all these memories for me, and I think it's something that maybe people don't consider as much before they go into the PhD. And for most of us, I think we're quite ambitious and we're independent. We want to do it. But I think it's important that we remember that support system 100%. Is important. So if you're going to advise, and if someone comes up to you now and said, oh, Ray, I'm thinking about my PhD. In hindsight, with what you know now, what are you going to tell them?
I think, and this is something actually that in the beginning, I always thought your topic was the most important thing, which I still think is very important, that you do something that you're interested in. Because if you're not interested in something, you're not going to be motivated to finish it.
That's true.
But I actually think supervisors is a very, very important component, because they are your other support system. Yes, your family and friends are a major support system, but your supervisors are just as big. And especially having supervisors who have an interest in the same fields that you have, or who have the capacity to support you. Because I know a lot of people or supervisors may have very busy schedules, and if they are busy to the point that they cannot offer you support, that's going to be a problem later on. Whereas I was very lucky that even though my supervisors were busy, I was still very lucky to get that support. So amazing. I definitely think, you know, doing your research about your supervisors, making sure they actually do have capacity, making sure they're interested in your field and can actually give you feedback and input that will help improve your project.
Absolutely. So you're saying things around the quality of the supervision, the expertise of the supervisor, very important things. They need to be interested in the area.
I think something really important is something I've learned, I guess, throughout you know, my career and doing my PhD, is that feedback is not always a bad thing. And I think, and the thing is, so when for example, when I do my thesis drafts and I would send it to my supervisors, I was very blessed that they'd give me a lot of constructive feedback, which was great because I can use that to improve on my project. But I think sometimes when you do get a lot of feedback in one go, it can be quite overwhelming.
That's true.
And I think, I don't know, I think I'd mentioned this like to you the other day, but I was saying how sometimes when you like submitted a paper to a journal, and you get back peer review feedback, I always get it in the evening, and I have this thing. I'm like, I just should not look at the feedback at nighttime, because that's when you're tired and you're ready to go to bed, and you're feeling a bit more vulnerable.
I know, I agree with you.
And of course, no, I always check it, and then I'm like, oh my gosh, there's so much feedback. It's bad. I've done it, like I failed. But then the next morning, you're fresh, and you're like, at the end of the day, I think of it this way. If someone has taken time to give you detailed feedback or constructive feedback, it means they care enough to actually help you improve on your project. And especially with peer reviewers who are looking at your journals, they are doing this for free.
That's true, though.
Essentially, they are taking their own time to give you feedback. And if anything, you know, sometimes the more eyes can actually be helpful in terms of refining or streamlining a project. So I think that's a big learning curve I've had in my PhD. Is I've always been a person who loves feedback, but I think especially during my PhD, it's much more frequent feedback. And I think that was a challenge to sort of be okay with taking the feedback and not taking it in a negative way, because they are trying to help you.
They are, isn't it? And I think that's a very good lesson there. A lot of people still have difficulties, and I think you're set with that, because I know it can be challenging for a lot of people sometimes, but it's good that you take it in a positive way. You don't think about it as a negative thing, but more like a positive thing. This person has contributed to my work, and they've spent time rising. I think that's a lesson, isn't it?
100%.
In a way to think about it. When you get feedback, you know, step back. Maybe a night's sleep. Don't look at it in the evening if you can. Come back to it with a fresh pair of eyes. And I do agree with you. So I've had similar instances where feedback has come, and you look at it and all of your confidence just kind of sweep to the floor, and you go, oh. But then you sleep and you wake up, and it's like, it's not the end of the world.
Exactly.
It's okay. Very important. Thank you for sharing that.
That's all right.
But I also wanted to I wanted you to maybe touch a little bit about things around how you looked after yourself. Because I think this is some of the things that we probably maybe don't talk about as such in terms of self-care, mental health and stuff like that. So what are the things that you did to look after yourself, to self-care?
Yes, which is again, key to do
Yeah.
your PhD. I think the first thing would honestly be going to the gym. So I go to F45.
Wow,
I love
nice.
F45.
What's F45 for people who don't
It's
know?
also oh gosh, that's terrible. I know what it stands for. Oh, that's right, functional 45. So each
Yeah.
of the classes are 45 minutes.
Yeah.
And
Nice, okay.
there's like a range, like you have cardio sessions
Yeah,
and
okay.
you have resistance training. So
Oh,
it's kind of
nice,
similar to
alright.
CrossFit.
Okay.
And yeah, they have a lot of sort of clubs around. But yeah, it's such a great community at the gym and they're very supportive. You don't, if you're having a bad day, it doesn't mean you have to go all out. It just a good way to vent.
Yeah.
And it's something that I cannot leave to work or doing my PhD. I couldn't leave without going to the gym.
The gym, yeah.
That just set me up for the day. That's what I would probably say that's a big part. And throughout my PhD, even if I was having busy writing schedules, I would still make time for the gym. It's because I have you need to get up and take breaks. You know, like we're not robots.
No.
We need to give yourself that time. And I actually think self-care includes going to the gym.
Absolutely.
And of course, like eating as well, making sure you're eating. So meal prepping or making sure you have snacks because you need fuel to write your thesis.
That's
you're using
actually
a
true.
lot of brain power.
Yeah, that's true. And it's now that I realize sometimes that I come to work here now and the level of tiredness is different from when I was on the floor clinically running. And honestly, working in ED is hard.
Yeah.
But it's a different kind of tiredness, like you're saying, isn't it? It's that brain
Yes,
tiredness.
like brain fog. Yeah,
Yeah, which can be quite, hard sometimes after a long day. So
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, so food is a big thing. And I guess related to that is I am a big stress baker. So throughout, I've actually stopped baking now. So I think there's a correlation.
Stress is gone. PhD stress baking, no longer baking. Maybe you need some more stress.
I feel like I need more stress to get myself baking. So throughout my PhD, I actually, in my free time, I wrote a recipe book. Yeah.
How did you get the time to?
No, it was just my way of procrastinating.
All right.
So I was like,
I'm with you then.
Yeah, I was like, bake and then write recipes. And then, yeah.
I'm with you. It's just like vacuuming from your dusting or rather than write. Okay.
Yes, I did my best work there.
I hear you.
But actually, it's a 2-in-1 because I'd be baking to relieve stress, but then I'd also be baking snacks for myself to eat when I'm writing.
Yeah.
So it's a 2-in-1.
It did work, right?
So that was another big thing. Another thing that I actually only started doing the second year of my PhD because I was feeling really overwhelmed from the first year. I wasn't sure if I was clear about my projects and whether I could actually achieve what I wanted to. So I've always been into high intensity exercise classes, but I started being more mindful and I would actually do meditation in the morning. And I'm not a person who can sit and do yoga or meditate. I'm not that person. I'm way too fidgety. So I actually force myself. So I'm an early riser. I'm usually up by 4:30. And I would force myself to meditate for at least 5 to 10 minutes every morning.
Yeah.
And then I would go to the gym and go do my work or writing. And I actually think that really helped just calm me down and just set you up for the day.
That's amazing, isn't it? And what I hear is everyone's got different things that they do. You just got to find something that works for you. And actually with the baking. maybe we wanted to start baking when we're stressed. I think that's but for the life of me, I can't bake. I probably need to get your recipe book.
I reckon you can definitely bake. I reckon just follow a recipe. Anyone can bake or cook.
You know what? Every time, even when I follow the recipe, it's actually, it might come out too hard or it's just like a rock solid cake that comes out. I gave up. I think last Christmas, I was supposed to do the baking.
Okay.
I baked and it came back rock solid.
Oh, no.
I didn't even bring it out. I just left it in the open. I'm like, you're not coming out this year.
At least you tried.
Yeah, I think I need some lessons. Some people
no, but honestly, first time,
Yeah.
not that great, which is why I did it a few times until I got the recipe right.
All right. In the spirit of baking, I think let's find whatever we think works. And I think at the end of the day, the moral of the story is that balancing.
Balance
isn't
is key.
Yeah, balancing everything.
100%.
Because it is not an easy journey. But congratulations once
Thank
again.
you so
are
much.
finished and done. And yeah, all the best
Thank
going
you.
forward. And thank you so much for coming to share
Oh
your
no, of
experiences
course.
with us.
I'm happy to share any tips and tricks of the trade. I'm sure we can share a lot of input in that area.
There are plenty, right, isn't it? And I think we're still also learning as we go ahead, because this is the beginning of our careers, isn't it? It's the beginning of a long journey to come. Yeah. So thank you once again, and hopefully we'll see you again if the need arises.
No, definitely. I'd love to. Thank you for having me.
No, thank you. All right, bye everyone. See you.
Bye.